Is it possible to get good results on an army when dry brushing? Let's find out. But first, I've realised I've got the wrong hat on. Let's change it. There we go, that's much better. So, as you might be able to see, we are starting with a black primed miniature. We primed them all black in the last video, all of them, all 52. Somehow we made a whole video about it because it seemed to take forever. I think it's from the amount. And actually I've just counted them while writing this script and it's 53 miniatures. So wish me luck with this. So to do some dry brushing, you need a brush. Now some people buy expensive dedicated dry brushes, but I will be using this. It's a makeup brush, a Jessup something or other. I think it's for eye blending or something, but it's better for dry brushing. You can get these sorts of brushes anywhere, especially the makeup ones. I think this one came from Superdrug, or maybe Amazon. Oh, by the way, my infected finger is almost healed now. Even the nail is beginning to return to normal. There was a time when I was worried the finger might fall off, but it didn't. Anyway, a big thanks to all of you who sent me messages or were concerned. I do appreciate it. It seems every video there's some sort of fingering update. I wonder what it will be next time. So yeah, loads of people have asked me about my finger, which is interesting, and I would say it's about 90% fixed. Okay, let's recap the series. In the last episode, whatever were we doing? Oh yes, we were priming the miniatures. That seems like such a long time ago, and it's only a few days ago. But once they were primed, we were then over the boring part of the process and ready to begin the exciting painting phase. Not the channel, the painting phase. It's nothing to do with me, that's Peachy and his mates over there. Just the painting phase as in actually painting the miniatures. If you want to see the series so far, you can check the playlist up here somewhere. I would recommend it. Lots of people seem to be enjoying it and I hope you do too. Rightio, let's get to painting. And to paint, we need some paint. And the paint in this instance is Vallejo Game Colour Imperial Blue. It's a nice dark blue paint. You can use something similar, like Night Lord's Blue or something if you want to follow along and don't have this one. It's just a dark blue. I think if you are painting a different legion or chapter, the same methods and steps would apply. So the in-trend nowadays, or on-trend, when dry brushing is to have a textured board. They cost loads of money, so I'm showing you the cheap option. Get some cork-backed placemats. I got these ones from Wilko, but you can probably get them from anywhere that sells cheap kitchen stuff, you know, like B&M or The Range or something. I had a look in Tesco and they only sold those horrible leather look ones with the big stitching. Nasty and no good to us. So here is my new texture board. If you're feeling clever, you could flip it over and eat your lunch off it, the Oxo family style. Or was it they just ate off the tabletop itself? What the hell was that advert all about? Does anyone remember it?
Mummy, promise you'll look after Tufty when I'm
You
gone.
must have seen this a dozen times.
Leave her alone. She's got a lump in her throat.
Must be one of that sprouts. More coffee, Jason.
Now I do miss the 1980s adverts. I don't know why, I just feel that they were a little bit more interesting. Adverts of today always seem very bland. I think most of the adverts I see are to do with either McDonald's or those fish finger adverts, where that child is telling off her parents. I don't like it. I think it teaches a bad example. Back-chatting they called it when I was a youngster. You'd be clipped round the ear for such insolence. I got the stick once actually, right on my arse. That's a different story altogether. Now before we use the paint, we need to give it a damn good shake, especially mine as it's been sitting in a box for a few months. You can get dedicated paint shakers and stirrers, but I'm not sure how well they work. Has anyone out there got any experience with them? I'm still a manual shaker. Now when I mix my paints, I don't use the mixing machine. Don't know what this is. Apparently it's some car drifting around the car park. Don't be one of those people, please. I actually just put steel ball bearings in and give them a good shake. I used to use these glass ceramic ones, but they sort of exploded when you shook them if you put more than one in, and they'd leave you with a fine grit of glass in your paint, and that clogged my airbrush, so I never did it again. Terrible. Now Byron from Artist Opus says it's best to decant the paint in a nice little line. Decant. That's a weird word and I don't think I've ever had to use it before. Maybe when we discussed someone's whiskey decanter at a sleepover in the mid-90s maybe. I think the last sleepover I was at, we stayed awake for over 2 days straight and collapsed on the third. I've no idea how we pulled that off, but being young probably helped. So using the dry brush, we put on a very heavy layer. When it's this heavy, I believe the correct term is an overbrush. I'm only really missing out the deepest crevices. This is giving me a wonderful base coat layer to work from. This is a very fast process and we can whiz through these miniatures pretty damn fast. So after applying that overbrush or dry brush layer, whatever name takes your fancy, we have this, a lovely dark blue. It's so dark it's almost black. It helps to have some good lights when painting, by the way. Maybe one day we shall have a chat about them. I think my one I use is a Daylight Company LED overhead lamp. Now, Mrs. Snakework said to me the other day when I was painting these, she says you're always painting blue miniatures, and she might have a bit of a point. I mean, the Alpha Legion we painted were a type of blue, I suppose. I painted a Crimson Fist once. I don't think I've really painted that many blue miniatures. We painted some orcs a while back. They're definitely not blue, they're green. This sort of green. It's quite a nice foliage green. I like my orcs to be almost yellowy green as opposed to dark green. But that's another conversation for another day. Okay, so actually that did take a fair bit of time. 53 miniatures is a fair amount of work, and those seconds soon add up. However, it was a lot faster than cracking out the base coat brush and painting them manually. The airbrush would have probably been fast though, so we even did the same dry brush method on the characters and the two vehicles, the Land Raider Spartan and the Dreadnought. I didn't paint the side panels of the Spartan blue as I want to do those a grey colour to break it up a little. I considered doing the whole tank grey, but I think I want a mix, as it were. The Codex Grey is there as a nod towards the old hammer tanks of the Rogue Trader era, but more on that later. Now our next paint is another Vallejo paint. It's Vallejo model colour blue, maybe my favourite blue out there. Oh, by the way, I really recommend Vallejo paints. They work very well. I've yet to try Pro Acryl, and I do want to. Any thoughts on those ones, anybody? They don't sell them in my local shops and I always forget to look for them online. One day we shall try them. Now I hear on the grapevine, on the internet, on the forums, on the Facebooks, on the Instagrams that Pro Acryl White is a very good paint. I've yet to get my hands on it and try it. I'm still using this Vallejo model colour white, which I think is a very good paint actually. A lot of people use Corax White, is it, by Citadel, but it clumps up a lot. It dries very quickly and leaves you with like a stodgy mess inside your pot. This is a stodgy mess apparently. I also once tried Scale 75 and I really didn't get on with those paints. Lots of people swear by them and say they are fantastic, but sadly they're not for me. They're just not my style. They don't fit how I like to paint. They were just too sort of transparent and gloopy for me. I like things that cover in one coat, like Durex wall paint. Durex? Dulux. I mean, you could cover your walls in Durex. That would be transparent as well, I suppose. Apart from the little bits of glow-in-the-dark circles that you might see around the room. Dear oh dear. Now when applying this next layer, we're going to have a go with a different brush. This time it's a proper paint brush. It's a wide, flat brush. I'm doing this to show you that you can use any sort of brush really, provided the bristles are the right length and the end of the brush is flat. That also helps. I might also add that dry brushing can trash your brushes pretty quick, so be prepared for that. Now here we have a cock-up. I was supposed to film the paint going onto the palette, but I didn't actually press record, so I decided to mime it for you instead. I think it's easy enough to get the gist of this one, especially as we've done it before. You know what to do. So we are now applying another heavy-ish layer. Not as heavy as the previous layer though, but I do want good coverage, but want to avoid all of the recesses. It's more of a feel thing than anything, so it can be a bit hard to explain. Just have a go. It's the best way to find out. There's nothing better than just trying things for yourself rather than watch some random on the internet, eh? So after that blue layer is added, they look a bit like this. Well, a lot like this, as these are them. Did I say I like this blue before? It's fantastic. Much better than pale sand. I don't even think I own pale sand. Maybe I'll change my mind when I try it, or maybe not. Isn't pale sand just another bone colour or off-white? I better go and look it up. What I have found is dry brushing is really good fun. It's quick, it feels good, you don't have to concentrate too much. So I'd really recommend it, especially for things like painting the Horus Heresy box set when you have a lot to do in a hurry. Well, you don't have to do it in a hurry, you could take forever to do it or not even paint it at all. So if you want to get your hands on your own Horus Heresy box set, you can check out the link up here somewhere. It is an affiliate link, by the way, but I would recommend it. It's very good value for money. It's kept me busy for the best part of a year nearly, isn't it? Where are we now? February? No, it's January still. 7 months? Did it come out in June? Don't even know when it came out. Now my wrist needs a rest, so Wyatt and I went bus spotting. Yeah, bus! It's not moving, there's no driver. Where do you think the driver is? Who knows? He loves his buses. So let's carry on. Our next paint up on the podium is Vallejo Game Colour Magic Blue. I'm not sure if it's really magic, but it does look nice when applied. I guess that's some sort of magic, right? Now where's Harry Potter when you need him? Maybe he could wave his hand at these miniatures and then magic them done for me. Magic them done. Does that even make sense? So this time, we are doing a much lighter dry brush application than before, heavy enough to see it go on, but light enough so it doesn't just paint over your previous layer. As I said before, it's more of a practice and feel thing. I really recommend you having a go yourself. That is, if you haven't. You might even be an expert dry brusher. This time we're concentrating on the top and edges of panels to simulate where the light might catch. Probably the only bit of realism we will be striving for. Also, what I've noticed when dry brushing these colours is I'm really enjoying the brightness and the punchiness of it. All the sort of airbrushed Horus Heresy military look is starting to look very drab and boring to my eyes. I mean, it does look good, but I'm just so bored with it, you know? I want some colour back in life. I want some excitement. I want some fantasy. That's why we do it, isn't it? For a bit of escapism? I guess everyone has their own reasons. Horses for courses and all that. So after that layer, things have changed a lot. We have a lot more definition, and I think they're starting to look very eye-catching. It really hasn't been a hard job either. It's easy and fast and looks good. That's a win-win-win, isn't it? Awesome. Maybe we should try our hands at the Kobayashi Maru next. And maybe that's what we should name the series, perhaps? Or maybe not. We have yet another blue paint coming up now, another fan favourite, and it's also another Vallejo paint. This time it's Vallejo Game Colour Electric Blue. Blue, electric blue, that's the colour of my room where I will paint. Isn't that a David Bowie song? We're referencing him a lot lately, and I do miss him too. I got into David Bowie via my dearest mother. I used to listen to her vinyl records. Both David Bowie and Uriah Heep were big favourites of mine. Ah, so the paint's not coming out. It's blocked! This can happen sometimes with the dropper bottles, especially if you've not used them for 6 months. Let me go unblock it with a poking stick. I think I used a metal rod. Sometimes I use drill bits. You can use anything you want to unblock it, as long as it fits in the hole. So after unblocking the paint, we have this, a lovely light blue applied to our dry brush palette. It's already looking well used, isn't it? It might make a nice piece of modern art to hang on the wall when we've finished. Maybe we could put it in the Tate Modern or even the Saatchi. Does that still exist? Now I'm just going to try and reach this for you without breaking anything. It is, oh dear, hold on, the Drybrush palette. Starting to look very used indeed already, isn't it? And I think it's fantastic. But if you turn it over, it says on there, if you're enjoying this video, then please consider liking it and subscribing to the channel. That means you, Conrad. If you are enjoying the content on the channel, then please consider joining the Patreon, the link to which is in the description below or up here somewhere. Okay, so when we apply this layer of dry brushing, we apply it very lightly indeed. It does still show up nicely though. At the end of the day, with 50 odd miniatures, you're bound to slip up a few times, so don't worry. And after all the next painting stages, it all sort of seems to get visually blended together anyway. I find that you can dwell on your own mistakes sometimes, but if you leave a miniature alone, you sort of forget the mistakes are there. And in a year's time, who's gonna care? So after a good dry brushing, the army now looks like this. I have to say, I'm really liking the results so far. It's very punchy and poppy, and also this is only the base armour colours. How many blues did we use? 4? Awesome. I feel this style would be really fun to try with a purple or a pink. Emperor's Children maybe? Anyone fancy a go at that? Now regarding the Spartan, I did try to use Byrons methods from his Rhino painting video. Here's a link. This is the first time I've ever tried it myself on a vehicle, and for a first attempt I'm very happy with how it turned out. After a few more vehicles practice, it should look damn good. It's very interesting to the eye. All my previous vehicles lately have been done with the airbrush, but I have to admit I'm getting bored with that cookie cutter style now. They all look the same. So here you go, that's it for the dry brushing. There's 53 miniatures I think, ready for the next stage of the painting, which will be painting metals. Joy. Hopefully we will see you there. Let me know what you think of these guys so far. You can put your answers on a postcard, or maybe have them sign written in the sky. That would be different. Or just put them in the comments below. Alright then, so I think that's looking pretty good. Next up we have to do some more coloured panels, such as the Terminator's shoulder pads and a couple of the shoulder pads on the Marines. We'll get to that later, it's going to be a little bit different. Oh, and the knee pads on the Spartan. No, the Spartan doesn't have knee pads, the Dreadnoughts. I forgot to paint those, so we'll have to do those in between somewhere. Anyway, if you want to see some more of this Horus Heresy Build, Paint and Play project playlist, I know you do, and check out the playlist up here somewhere. As always, thank you very much for watching, and always remember to drill your barrels.
There we go.
Ah, Mum's chops usually come with gravy.
Do they?